Welcome everyone to this month's View from the Mount live broadcast from Meditation Mount. And today we will be exploring the significance of the heart in this next cycle of human evolution. And the theme that we've given for this exploration is called Activating the Era of the Heart. So let's begin by gathering our forces, taking time to still ourselves in the here and now. We're gathered in virtual space from various locations around the world, and so we're going to take a few moments to bring ourselves present. And we do this by relaxing first our physical body, taking a few deep, gentle breaths, letting go of any tension that may be held. And with each breath, we relax more. And then we do the same for our emotional body, our feelings. Feelings can often show up as troubled waters. So let us visualize these waters becoming still and calm. And we breathe in a sense of deep stillness and peace. And now, releasing any tension in the mind, any extraneous thoughts that may be swirling. Simply let them go. Imagine their clouds being blown away and allowing a clear sky to be present. So having relaxed our physical, emotional, and mental bodies, let us now enter that sacred place, the silence of the heart. And sense the one life pulsing through your whole being. The lifeblood that flows through each one of us is a universal circulation of the lifeblood of life. So let us now link heart to heart to heart. And we see lines of lighted love emanating from each of our hearts, touching every other heart of those gathered today. And thus we weave together a matrix of heart-lighted souls. So this is our group chalice. This is our field of communion and our community in which we will receive the outpouring of higher wisdom and register new insights together. So let's hold that space a moment and be here and now and present for what wants to unfold. Thank you. So here's a proposed approach. I'll be presenting some thoughts and posing some questions for us to ponder. And because we're focusing on the heart today, we're not going to get into a lot of technical things, a lot of esoteric technology. Because it's going to be heart-centered, we're going to be sensing things more with the higher mind, the intuition. And we'll have times of self-reflection. There'll be opportunities to open ourselves in meditation inside the receptive group field that we've just woven together. Because I believe that when we come together with a shared intention, we can actually receive real-time input from the wisdom that overlights us. That is the wisdom of our own soul. It's the wisdom of the soul of humanity. So it isn't that we just gather together all the things that we've known from before, but standing here together today in openness and inquiring the way together, new insights can flow into us. So that's the intent I'm holding. So our theme is activating the era of the heart. And so naturally there are two avenues of inquiry. First, focusing on the revelatory role of the seasons and the cycles in the continuous expression of the one life. This is the era part, the seasons, the time. And then we'll enter into an exploration of the nature and significance of the heart in the evolutionary process. And I'll be drawing from the Agni Yoga teachings, a little bit from other sources of the Ageless Wisdom teaching. I'll be sharing some of the insights and some of the things that have come to me in the past few months. And once again, I want to stress that what I'm presenting is something for us to ponder on together. It is not the truth. The disclaimer is don't believe a word anyone says. Don't believe a word I say unless it resonates in your heart. Or if you're willing to test it out in the laboratory of your daily life. So let's begin with this notion of eras, because we talk about ages, eras, cycles, seasons. So here's how I hold it. I like to think that the eternal promise of life unfolds unceasingly in time and space and substance. And it does this season by season, cycle after cycle, and era by era. And with every passing moment, more of life's mystery is revealed as we expand our awareness and enhance our competency and capacity to deliver on this sacred promise. This, for me, is the whole secret of the kingdom of heaven is already within us, is already here. That's what the biblical texts say. That's what other sacred writings say. Is when you're looking for something, don't always look outside because it's all here. It just has to be revealed. We've used this analogy before in the same way that the seed holds the promise of the future. But that promise is only revealed when you plant it in time and space and it goes through the seasons of growth. I believe the same is true for our soul. That the promise of who we are can only be grown when it's planted, when it's sown in the soils of our earthly experience. So we usually mark the passing of these temporal phases in years. Each of us, every year, we celebrate a birthday. That's, another orbit on the planet Earth around the sun from the time we were born. And then we measure the length of our life in years. We measure the span of an incarnation in years. And then there are those vast cycles that encompass the rise and fall of civilizations. These are also seasons. And then we go on up to unimaginable rounds of the cosmic calendar. I'll give you an example. For instance, the Vedic tradition, this ancient tradition coming from India, from the East, calculates the longevity of a year of Brahma as an unfathomable 311.04 trillion years. Well, can you fact check that one? But that's what the tradition says, but it's too big to grasp. And therefore, I think we have to distinguish between a couple of types of time. There is the Chronos time, where time ticks away. Like at the moment, the clock is ticking, and this particular broadcast will take anywhere from 40 to 50 minutes. So we can measure that in minutes. That Chronos time is what I call tick-tock time. Then there's the time that you find in nature, where it's not measured in seconds, but it's measured by time that we call kairos. Kairos is a qualitative measurement of it's whatever it takes to complete a cycle from beginning to end, from seed to flower and back to seed. And so I'd like to think of our exploration in time as more the qualitative aspect of time, because we're here to reveal the glory and the truth that lives inside. And we're not just looking at the clock. We're not just clock watching. We're sensing the seasons, and we're sensing the opportunity to grow through them. So we've got all these cycles, these vast cycles, these annual cycles. We've got the cycle of a day. An hour ago, the sunset here in the Ojai Valley. Beautiful sunset. Well, the sun actually doesn't set. It's the earth turning. The sun never sets. It's always present, just like the soul is always present. But I'm thinking of all these cycles we talk about because every now and again in history, there are those auspicious moments within this cosmic continuum of the evolutionary process when a number of these cycles line up. And when they line up, they create a scalar portal through which new energies may enter our Earth from deeper dimensions of the cosmos. So let me offer a way of looking at this. You can view it in the same way as a combination lock works on a safe. So you dial in all the numbers, and when the numbers line up and click, you can open the safe, you can open the vault. And when all these astronomical and astrological cycles line up, they click open. And we have free access to the vault of heaven with its storehouse of refined riches. That means that these particular times in history, when there is this alignment, an influx of energy that hitherto has not been available floods in. And I believe we are in one of those times at the moment. We do, in fact, find ourselves living in a pertinent period of stellar alignment. And I'm going to give a couple of examples and we'll unpack this a little bit more. We've heard reference to the passing of the Piscean Age, and it's giving way to the Aquarian Age. And if you want to get technical, the Piscean Age was ruled by the sixth ray of idealism and devotion. And the Aquarian Age is ruled by this fluid, synthetic movement of revelation. The other era that we're moving away from and moving into is defined once again in the Vedic teachings and in the Agni Yoga teachings as this transition between Kali Yuga and Satya Yuga. Yugas are these great expanses of time, and there are four of them, and they cycle around just like the four seasons. And Kali Yuga is the last one. And Satya Yuga is the beginning of the next season of growth. And what I'd like to do is to read you some quotes from the Agni Yoga teachings because it talks about the characteristics of life at the end of Kali Yuga and at the beginning of Satya Yuga, which is where we find ourselves. So let me just share this quote with you, and we can read it together. Falsehood and darkness fill the end of Kali Yuga. One must realize this in order not to lose one's strength. It is impossible to avoid the dark days, and only a knowledge of their cause will give one the patience to survive them. Hence, in this Kali Yuga cycle of death and destruction for the age of the mind, there is already emerging a new paradigm of the Satya Yuga cycle, or Golden Age, a renaissance for the human spirit that will set the tone for the age of Aquarius. So basically it's saying that in the Kali Yuga, it's a time of breakdown. Just as you have, once something's flowered, it starts to decompose. So we're in a period of decomposition. But inside the decomposition, new seeds are being sown, and that which is decomposing, hopefully, is fertilizing the ground to help the new grow. So a lot of people are wondering, what's going on? Why it feels like the world's falling apart? I don't want to make it too simplistic, but it's because everything now is being tested. And if the forms that we have no longer can serve life, and reveal the truth, the goodness, and the beauty inherent in life, they're released. So Kali Yuga is a time of release. It's the time where the darkness of human consciousness is the most apparent, and when, if you like, the dark side of our nature may flare up. So that's one way of looking at this. And then the entry into Satya Yuga is a golden age. And a golden age simply means a society, a civilization that represents the qualities and characteristics of the soul, because the soul is always equated with gold. So a golden age is the full flowering of the promise and the potential inside the seed. And that's why we go through these seasons, the 4 yugas. So I wanted to point that out because there are a lot of people who are just wondering, what on earth is going on? They feel despair, they feel and see the destruction around, and it's disconcerting. They're distraught. And yet, there are signs of hope. And the hope is the seeds that Satya Yuga is allowing to be sown inside of it at the moment. So I'll refer to another quote from Agni Yoga in a little while, but I wanted to at least show you that one. So in the passage from one age to another, there's always great turmoil and upheaval. So during these present critical times of transition, as the old passes away and the new forms emerge, we're going to be experiencing this. We're going to be living in two realities. One reality is like the destruction around us, and the other is the emergence of that which is hopeful. And they have to coexist. And we have to learn to hold both in our hearts, knowing that they are what is happening now. I'd like to say how I see it is that the ending of an age or the death of a civilization is not the death of the human spirit. I want to make that clear. It's the death of the forms. So the ending of an age or the death of a civilization is not the death of the human spirit. It's simply the dissolution of the forms that have carried that spirit to this point in time. Then they're recycled. So this is a phrase that I came up with a couple of years ago to help me remember this. In the continuous pageant of life, through the cyclical procession of the seasons, the angel of death and endings always precedes the avatar of regeneration, appearance, disappearance, and reappearance. Such is the generative nature and rhythmic flow of an emergent process. So it's like, don't despair when the forms start to disintegrate, because our task is to give birth to new forms that really do justice to the promise, this eternal promise that's carried through time, carried through all the seasons, carried through everything. And each season gives a different opportunity for the further revelation of this. So there's always a pivotal passage between the cycles that has to be traversed. I believe that the way that we enter the coming era, the Satya Yuga, the Aquarian Age, whatever you like to call it, I believe the portal that takes us into this new era can only be gained by passing through the gateway of the heart. And I'll go into this further, but the heart is the key, because the gateway of the heart leads us into heightened levels of caring and sharing. And it invites us and stimulates us to carry out acts of loving service, loving kindness for the good of the whole. So the reason I'm emphasizing the heart so much is it is important at this particular juncture in our history. Kali Yuga was the era of the mind, the Yuga of the mind. And there's nothing wrong with the mind. The mind provides us with the ability to analyze, dissect, deduce through the power of critical reasoning, and yet it has its limitations. And now as we enter the Satya Yuga, we are moving to a heart-centered civilization, and the heart comprises a more refined field of synthesis and unification. So the heart offers us, if you like, this boundless reservoir of wisdom and deep knowing that we can sense what things are. We don't have to analyze them. We don't have to dissect them. We don't have to use the analytical mind, the lower mind, because the heart has a deep knowing. And the other characteristic of the heart that I find very reassuring is that egoism does not dwell in the heart. And I don't want to make egoism bad. It's just that when we get caught up in comparing, somebody's richer than me, I'm better than another person, our ego starts to distort itself, and we're not being true to ourselves. In the age of the heart allows us to bring things together, because the heart is the dwelling place of selfless love. Therefore, the heart in the coming journey, in the era that we're entering, is our compass and our guide, and it's going to shepherd us through all the stages that we have to go through. So I believe moving into the heart is pivotal, because this heart-lighted guidance is needed in these troubled times of transition, in order to make sense of what's happening, in order to safely cross the threshold into a more wholesome and sustainable way of living in harmony with each other on the planet. So a few more reflections on the heart. And if you wish, you can just place your hand on your heart and feel it beating. It's beating all the time. It keeps you alive. It is the rhythm of life that we can feel. So the heart, according to the Agni Yoga teachings, is an organ of immense receptivity and radiance, because it's a unified field that can hold all things with loving understanding and kindness. So inside the heart, there is this pervasive quality of coherence, cohesion. So all the various aspects of life that we sense are seen as interconnected. Whereas the mind saw things as separate. And when it sees things as separate, you can separate out and have one person be the other, one person be less, another person be more. What the heart does is holds everything in wholeness. So separation does not exist anymore. So that's one of the characteristics of living in the heart. And also, if you go back to the seed containing the promise, and the seed has to be sown in the fields of time and space for the promise to be shown and grown, the heart also functions as what I call a fecund field. It's a womb. It's a birthplace of the dream of a more enlightened and compassionate world. So in the Agni Yoga teachings, they say that the heart is this amazing organ that allows us to be alive, to come alive, allows us to give birth, allows us to have empathy and compassion with all life. In fact, the Agni Yoga teaching says the heart is central. And it's referred to as the sun of suns of the universe. Think about that. Because you could look at your own heart, and your heart, my heart, is the locus of my own inner sun, my soul. And the Agni Yoga teaching says, don't think of the heart solely as your own personal organ, but more as a universal organ that is an integral part of you. It's like this universal organ, aspects of it live within us as our heart. So in this way, the heart becomes the connective tissue, becomes the medium of communication, communion, coherence with all of life, with the cosmos. So what I'd like to do is to read one more paragraph, or sloka, as they're called, from the Agni Yoga teachings. And this one, in fact, comes from a book that is called Heart. And the book Heart, as its first sloka, declares this. So this is the first paragraph you'll read when you look at the book Heart. To behold with the eyes of the heart, to listen with the ears of the heart at the roar of the world, to peer into the future with the comprehension of the heart, to remember the cumulations of the past through the heart. Thus must one impetuously advance upon the path of ascent. It's basically saying you can't go on the journey unless you are living inside your heart, or your heart is your traveling companion. Creativeness encompasses the fiery potentiality and is impregnated with the sacred fire of the heart. Therefore, upon the path to the hierarchy, upon the path of great service, upon the path of communion, synthesis is the one luminous path of the heart. How can the manifested rays be radiated if the flame is not affirmed in the heart? It is precisely the quality of the magnet that is inherent in the heart. The highest creativeness is imbued with this great law. Hence, each consummation, each union, each great cosmic unification is achieved through the flame of the heart. Now, I know that's prosaic language, but for me, it speaks to the truth that behind all creation is this presence that we call love. And it's said in the teachings that inside every heart, the eternal flame of life burns, and it is the fire of love. So when you strip everything away, fire at its essence is love. That's the, if you like, the takeaway from the Agni Yoga teachings. It's very powerful. So it's basically saying, rather than just looking through your normal eyes or listening with your normal ears and then you start comparing, saying, I like this, I don't like this, rather than being the critic, you become the person who not only witnesses by beholding and hearing, but you become engaged in life through the heart. It's how we step into life and how life can step into us. So I wanted to just at least read that first quote from Agni Yoga. So as I said just a while ago, listen to the heart, feel the heart, because the rhythm of life is sensed through the pulse and the beat of our heart. It circulates the lifeblood around the ecosystem of self. Each one of us has our own universe that we're responsible for. I call it the ecosystem of self or the universe of self. What I'd like to do is to extend this and posit that there is a greater system of circulation in which we can consciously participate as we connect heart to heart to heart to heart and realize the true nature and gift of the universal heart that we've just been speaking about. So earlier we used the example of cycles within cycles lining up to create the right combination that opens the vault of heaven. I'm inviting us now to expand this allegory in regard to the aligning of our hearts. And I invite you to take part in this time of meditation. It will be a very brief guided meditation with visualization. So let's take a few deep, gentle breaths. Bring ourselves to a point of stillness. Allow all outer activity to cease. And stand in a place of deep inner stillness. Now re-enter the sacred space of your heart and feel the fire of love burning as an eternal flame at its center. This is the spark of the one life that lives in you and lives in me. It's what connects us with each other and with all of life. So now let's sense and see lines of lighted love flowing and connecting each of our hearts with the hearts of our friends. See your heart connected with the hearts of your family. Hold them in your heart. Your co-workers, the people in your neighborhood. And as you both see and sense these lines weaving together, realize that we are part of a matrix of deep connection and communion with each other. Now let's sense, with the ears of the heart, the pulsing heart of our one humanity. These are the 8 billion hearts beating around the world. And sense how all these hearts beat in rhythm with each other. And then sense how this rhythm is part of the rhythm of the heart that is the planetary life. And then through your own body, through your own connections, feel our earth pulsing as one coherent field to the heartbeat of the sun. The heart of the sun and imagine a greater heart embracing this, the whole solar system, and then the heart of the galaxy. And imagine this chain of hearts extending into the infinite nature of the Creator. See this with the eyes of the heart. And realize that we are part of this magnificent nested universe, lives within lives within lives, hearts within hearts within hearts. And then allow yourself to register and realize that there is only one heart, and that you and I are heart fractals of the generative mystery we call the Creator, God, whatever name we give to the causeless cause. Let's stay for a few moments in this expanded sense of awe and wonder of what we're a part of. Now slowly, let's bring this expanded awareness, this inner knowing, this inner sensing, back into this waking moment and allow it to course through our body, our blood. Allow it to register in the atoms, in the bones of our being. So as we come out of this meditation, let us stand in a new place where we understand what we're part of. Understanding not through the mind, but through the heart that is connected with all things and knows all things. So take a few deep, gentle breaths and slowly bring yourself back to a waking consciousness. And if you were doing this with eyes closed, then please slowly open your eyes. So my question is, what, if anything, has awakened or shifted in your sense and understanding of your place in the greater scheme of things after this very brief period of contemplation? And also, are you beginning to notice the difference of hearing with the ears of the heart and seeing with the eyes of the heart? Allowing the heart to be the organ of perception, and the mind lives inside the heart. We're not throwing the mind away. We're placing the mind inside the heart so it has an expanded possibility. So the reason I wanted to offer this particular meditation or reflection is because I went through a similar process on Christmas Day. I spent the day quietly by myself, in silence, playing music. And I went through this, if you like, heart-centered meditation. And without going into all the things that happened, I'll give you a brief encapsulation of the experience. For me, I had a realization that when I align my heart, first of all, with the heart of the mother of the world, this great presence of love that substands us, that holds us, and then with the heart of the father of the world, this is this fiery present that is the seed, the promise bearer. And when I align my heart with all my sisters and brothers in this human family, and then extend it to the nature outside my window here, my heart links with the heart essence of the rocks and the flowers, the birds, the animals, the angels, the devas, all the beings that make up this incredible sentient being we call Earth. And then when I continue this alignment of my heart to include the heart of the sun, the loving heart of the galaxy, and then suddenly I find that everything, just as it did with the combination lock on the safe, everything goes click, everything lines up, and suddenly I am standing in a place where time and distance have collapsed. Because when I am in love, and when I stand in love and express love, there is no distance between you and me. There is no time distance, there is no space distance. Because if love is all there is, and when we stand in love, we have recreated the original union. So for me, love is the key that opens every portal, opens every door. So I told you that we're not going to be technical today. This is more a sensing, so some of my words may seem prosaic and may not feel grounded. But for me, the experience that I went through on Christmas Day was an understanding at a deeper level of when this greater flow of love pours through us, we actually are standing in the presence of a limitless and unconditional love. When I experience something, it must be there. So when I experience love, what is love? If it's this universal presence that lives in all things, I can experience love for you and the love in you. And yet, beyond it all and holding it all is this great, limitless presence of love. And then coming out of this experience on Christmas Day, it was so clear to me that you and I are integral aspects of the infinite and eternal presence of love. So the question is, Michael, what are you going to do about it? How is it going to show up each day? It's one thing to hold this as this ideal, as this inner promise. So how do you reveal love? So I believe that, first of all, by standing inside the sacred space with all heart channels open, it allows us to receive that which we already are from beyond time and space. The kingdom of heaven is already with you, as it says in the Bible, and it says in other spiritual texts. Everything's inside waiting to be revealed. We just have to remove the veils that currently obscure the light of the inner sun, the heart. So for me, the big aha really was a visceral knowing that our hearts are connected across time, across space, across distance, and that I, you, are timeless aspects of love. If you like, we're the eternal promise unfolding and flowering over time and through time. But these words really don't do justice. They're not sufficient to describe the experience. And each one of us has our own experience, so I don't want to overburden you with my experience, but I just wanted to say that I realized that through the heart, we have the opportunity to deeply connect with the truth of who we are, individually, collectively, and to know our place in the greater scheme of things, to know our purpose in life. So this experience for me was deeply reassuring because it was like an act of grace that confirmed for me beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is one life and that we're it. So I'd like to take this theme a little further. And this is what I strongly believe now and hold in my heart, that coming to a realization that there is only one heart in the whole of existence and that each of us is somehow a fractal of this loving core, I believe that this will mark a major point of development and transformation in human consciousness. When this big collective aha happens, there is a huge shift. Because it's a breakthrough and a shift from self-centeredness, where the part is seen as separate from the whole, to a new worldview where each fractal is known to be a unique expression of the whole. And when this happens, I believe this will open the portal. This will herald the birth of the era of the heart on earth. So standing inside this new felt reality, it's not with the mind or simply with the mind. It has to be a felt reality. It has to be experienced as something real, something tangible. And then it allows us to participate in what the ageless wisdom teaching calls the great chain of being, the great chain of blessing, which really is a vast circulatory system of creation. And what is it that flows through this circulation? In our body, it's blood. It's red blood. I believe that what flows through the circulations of the universe is the golden lifeblood, which is the liquid love that nourishes all beings. So I believe that a heart-centered society that we're striving to create is a joyful, rich, and sustainable society. And it has to be fashioned skillfully and lovingly by a community of heart fractals, fulfilling an ancient promise and destiny. So it's like the time has come. I say the lining up of the cycles. We're here to bring the promise into reality, to make the word flesh, again, as it says, using a biblical quote. So we're being invited by our souls to realize, to actually make real this vision. And we do it by how we show up each day, how we comport ourselves. So this is what gets back to our own choice. How does Michael wake up in the morning and choose to be that day? How do I set my compass? How do I open my heart? How do I clear my mind? How do I go through the day in a space where I can cause goodness to happen rather than just react to all the bad things I see around me? I mean, that's the choice that each of us faces each day when we wake up. It's not an easy task, but we're getting more skillful. And when we allow ourselves to be heartful and to stand inside this essential center, then I believe it becomes much easier. As I said before, I believe the heart is the sacred dwelling place of limitless love. And it's up to us to make that love visible and tangible. If love is the word needs to be made flesh. The love has to be realized. So I'd like to take a breath now, because that was a lot I sort of poured into the field there. I'd like to focus a little bit on Meditation Mount now and our work. So part of our assignment here at Meditation Mount, as we've mentioned in many of the broadcasts over the years, is to make known the three principles of essential divinity, goodwill, and unanimity. And this time, I'd like to view them through the lens of the heart. So, for instance, the principle of essential divinity declares that inside each person burns the fiery presence of love, the eternal flame of love. And therefore, life is a continuous journey of revealing that all-pervading presence of love. Then if we take the principle of goodwill and look at it through the lens of the heart, the principle of goodwill affirms that love is the lifeblood that flows throughout the entire universe. It's the lifeblood that nourishes and sustains all creation. And goodwill is how you and I demonstrate that eternal love through our daily practice, the daily practice of being present in the world, how we behave, how we show up with each other. And then finally, the principle of unanimity, seen through the lens of the heart, confirms that we are each integral aspects of one coherent web of life, one interdependent, multidimensional ecosystem that is glued together and held in place by the power of unconditional love. To quote many songs from the recent era, love is all there is. So the heart is activated and the portal into its domain is gracefully open through acts of loving kindness. So it goes back to what can we do? You don't just meditate and say, I am love. You actually have to do something. That's why we're incarnated. That's why we're in the flesh, to make everything real. So I believe the era of the heart will be characterized by this deep urge to love and serve the one life, the one humanity. And we start with ourselves. Am I being a good steward? Am I being loving and kind to my own universe of self? Am I being loving and kind to the ecosystem of my family, my neighbors, or my sisters and brothers around the world that comprise this human family? So from this space of connection and kinship, I believe that we can open the heart further to hold all creatures for whom this earth is home. So we talk about animals, birds, flowers, but also rocks, also the microorganisms. And then we go to the realms we call the invisible realms, but they're not invisible to the people that dwell there, but they're invisible to us because we don't see them with our earthly eyes. These are the realms of the angels, the great creative beings. So the heart has contact with all life. So as the heart of humanity continues to expand, I believe our communion also will include the stars and all life within the incarnational field of the cosmos. I feel very privileged because when I look outside my window at night before I go to sleep, I see in the sky, because the skies are normally clear here in Southern California, I see the stars. And if I wake up in the middle of the night, there outside my window is Orion. And then a little to the west and down a little bit is the star Sirius, and this bright, brilliant star. And you realize that these just aren't lumps of rock in space. These are sentient beings. What we're seeing is their densest manifestation, but they are lives. These are stellar lives. And once you realize that we're inside a universe that is alive, the whole thing shifts. Because you realize we're inside the manifested body of an infinite and eternal presence in which we all live and move and have our being, as the ageless wisdom loves to call it. So once again, I'd like to pause. I take a few moments to assimilate what we've received today. Just do a check. How's your heart doing? How are you doing? And by way of beginning a completion of this time together, I'm going to recap and I'm going to show 3 more slides, just by way of recap. So let's just take a few more deep breaths before we look at some more images. Maybe you can't read it if you're on an iPhone or a smartphone. So what I'll do is I'll read this for you. We'll read it together. But what this image says, it's exactly the whole focus of our time today. We're at the ending of a number of cycles and the beginning of some new cycles. and then listed planetary personality cycle, planetary soul cycle, fifth root race impulse, sixth root race impulse. These slides were created for an esoteric philosophy course, so that's why they're more technical. But it simply means like from the fifth to the sixth is from the mind to the heart, from the mind to intuition. And this is, if you like, from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga. The sixth ray to the seventh ray, that would be Pisces to Aquarius. And yet, there's this eternal presence behind all of it, because every season is an opportunity for the eternal presence to reveal more of itself. And these words are taken from a book written by David Spangler back in the early 70s, and they come from a being that he calls limitless love and truth. I am timeless and infinite. There is no place that knows me not. There is no time when I have not expressed what I am. I am the root of you. I am the stem of you. I am the flowering and the seed that goes forth. I am all that you are. Goes back to this, the kingdom of God is with us. It's here now. The promise lives inside. So seasons and cycles are simply to reveal in time, space, and substance the truth that lives on the inside. So how do we love? We talk about cosmic love, but how do you and I handle cosmic love? Well, the way we do it is we sound love in our own lives, through our own heart, through our daily practice. And then when we sound the note of love, it reverberates throughout all of creation. The note of love connects all things. That's why I say time and space disappear. And when we are loving in our lives, we are connected with the presence of universal love. So here's another way of depicting the chain of hearts. So how do you and I sound the note of love each day? How do we show up as loving and kind? And then the final. The art of being divinely ordinary. This is another phrase that David Spangler coined back in the early 70s, is how you bring spirit and matter together, how you bring heaven and earth. Our task is to be divinely ordinary. So we all are familiar with this particular phrase, chop wood, carry water. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. And the only difference is, well, there's a symbol of enlightenment above the person's head, but also there's a little bit more of a smile on the lips of the person chopping the wood and carrying the water. So our task is to be divinely ordinary. And that means each day we're here to liberate the love that lives inside our hearts and lives inside the heart of the one humanity. That's our task. And nobody else can do it. I mean, it's our assignment. So we've explored the nature and significance of the heart today through the lens of the Ageless Wisdom teaching. But however, if you're interested in learning more about other practices and protocols for stimulating and activating the heart, I'd highly recommend you visiting the Heart Math Institute website, the Heart Math Institute. They've been around since the early 90s, and they provide an approach that's a wonderful blend of science and spirituality. I really find it useful. They also inspire and sponsor other heart-related initiatives that you may come across. I'll name just two of them, the Global Coherence Pulse and the Connection Field. So anyway, check them out, the Heart Math Institute, because there are some practical exercises and protocols you can follow to bring it to the ground, to realize the love. So let me offer some final thoughts by way of completion. As I stand here with you in 2025, we're now a few days into this new year. This really is a point of entry into something new. I sense in the depth of my being that you and I are being summoned by the overlighting soul of our one humanity. And what we're being asked to do is inaugurate this golden era, this Satya Yuga, this age of the heart. through how we show up each day, how we live our lives. So I invite us to begin this collective journey by first igniting the fire of love inside our own heart, or reigniting it. In that way, it removes all the barriers between us. Because when love burns and love flows, we are in a natural state of communion. And I believe love is the compelling force that will liberate us. And it will allow us to joyfully honor and celebrate each other as the rich diversity of the one life that each of us represents. So let me complete with if you like, a prayer, an affirmation. May love prevail on earth. So love prevail on earth as we welcome in this next turn on the evolutionary spiral. This is the next great season in the flowering of the human spirit within the Garden of Gaia. The movement from Kali Yuga to Satya Yuga, from the Piscean Age to the Aquarian Age. This is another season of growth and unfolding. So those are all the words I have to offer today, but more importantly, let's offer each other our love, and let's live in love. And let's bring love into the world to the degree that we're able to each day. So thank you for your presence and participation in this group inquiry as we explore how to activate the heart. And on behalf of the whole stewardship team here at Meditation Mount, blessings on this coming year and blessings on our shared work in the world together. So all of us wish you a good night, and we look forward to your company next month. Namaste.